LCA MK-1A Delayed, LCA MK-2 in prototype development stage, 5th generation fighter AMCA far away, and no new Rafale inducted after the initial 36 jets. Indian Air Force fighter squadron strength is at an alarmingly low level. What should IAF do? Go ahead with the multi-billion-dollar MRFA program and push indigenization to the back burner, or wait for the indigenous fighters to be ready and be vulnerable in the region? These are some difficult questions, so let's try to make sense of the situation. Hello guys, I am Saurav and welcome to the ARC. In April 2019, the Indian Air Force issued a request for information to acquire 114 MRFA at a cost of around $18 billion. Responses for 8 aircraft for the deal were received. American Lockheed Martin F-21, Boeing F-18EF Super Hornet and F-15EX, Eurofighter Typhoon, French Dassault Rafale, Swedish Saab JS-039 Gripen, and Russian Sukhoi Su-35 and Mikoyan MiG-35. So let's try to understand the process first. The Indian Air Force is now pushing for the acceptance of necessity for the MRFA tender. The AON will make budgetary provisions to fund the program. After this, the IAF can issue the request for proposal. The global aerospace OEMs will then evaluate the RFP and submit their bids. Then a technical evaluation committee will evaluate the bid proposals for compliance with IAF's requirements and RFP conditions. After that, field trials will be carried out to evaluate the performance of different aircraft. Then a few aircraft will be shortlisted, and after final evaluation, the winner will be declared. But that's not all. After that, further price negotiations will be carried out to finalize the configurations, etc. Only after that, formal contract signing can take place. Now we are here, and it's a long drawn process to reach here. Then does it make sense to spend more than $20 billion to buy a foreign fighter, which won't be inducted before 2019, while the Indian fighters might also get ready around the same time frame? We'll discuss the pros and cons of MRFA later, but its eerie similarity to the MMRCA is the main cause of concern here. Remember MMRCA? The Medium Multi-Role Combat Aircraft, or MMRCA, if you remember, was a huge mess. But India's fighter squadron dilemma is older than the MMRCA. India had the opportunity to license produce the French Mirage 2000 with full technology transfer, but we could not. And there is an interesting backstory to this about how geopolitics and power games shape our strategic decision making. Around the year 1978, India procured the Anglo-French Jaguar aircraft. The French, not happy with their share in this British-led deal, pitched their Mirage 2000 aircraft to India, which was in its early stage of development. Around the same time period, Pakistan was looking to procure an advanced US-made fighter aircraft, and by 1981, Pakistan had signed the agreement for procurement of the modern F-16 fighter. India signed the deal with France in 1982 to acquire 40 Mirage 2000s, with an option for HAL to manufacture an additional 110 units in India. The Mirage 2000s were inducted into the IAF in 1985. And this is when things got interesting. Unsettled by the French aircraft induction into the IAF, the Soviet Union promptly offered its state-of-the-art MiG-29 fighters, which were not offered to anyone earlier. MiG-29 was one of the most advanced fighter aircraft of the world at that time. India inducted 2 squadrons of MiG-29s around 1987. But it came at a cost. India was forced by the Soviets to license produce the MiG-27 aircraft by HAL in India. This left no money to produce any other aircraft in India. Hence, despite inducting the Mirage 2000 at a very early stage, India could not produce the aircraft in India. Then again after the Kargil War in 1999, impressed with its performance, India made another attempt to produce the Mirage 2000 in India. But by then, the production line was closed by its manufacturer Dassault Aviation, which was dedicating its efforts to produce a new fighter aircraft called the Rafale. So India missed two opportunities of manufacturing the Mirage 2000 in India. Now coming to the MMRCA, IAF issued an RFI for MRCA in 2001. Then in 2007, a mega tender was floated to acquire 126 medium multi-role combat aircraft or MMRCA for $6.6 billion. 6 fighters participated in the contest: Boeing FA-18 Super Hornet, Dassault Rafale, Eurofighter Typhoon, Lockheed Martin F-16, Mikoyan MiG-35 and Saab JS-39 Gripen. In 2012, Rafale emerged the winner of the contest, but the price negotiations and the deal could not be finalized, even after 14 years since it started. Finally, in 2015, India acquired 36 Rafales off the shelf for about 58,000 crore rupees in a government-to-government deal. But what's the need of MRFA now? The Indian Air Force is facing a critical issue: the diminishing strength of its fighter squadrons.
Quantity does matter when it comes to be able to spread across the large geographical area that we have to contend with. It is important when we have to have persistence. When I say persistence, we need to have strong air defense capability around the clock. With the given numbers, it might be impossible to maintain a 24/7 combat air patrol or an air defense watch right across from Sir Creek to Siachen and further to the east. So the numbers definitely are essential. 42 will remain. Like I said, I know that it is a difficult goal to achieve in the next few years or maybe in the next decade or so. But we will review it only based on the situation that arises in our neighborhood. Based on the current situation, based on the mandate given to the Indian Air Force, I think it is essential that we need to build up the numbers.
IAF sanctioned fighter squadron strength to fight a two-front war is 42. But as you can see, the squadron strength currently stands at 30. The situation is graver than it seems. IAF is set to retire the remaining 2 MiG-21 squadrons by the end of next year. The first 16 aircraft out of the 83 LCA Mark-1As ordered in 2021 were supposed to be delivered by the end of 2024-25. It's end of August now, and not even the first LCA Mark-1A has joined service. So at this point, it's almost impossible for 2 new squadrons to join service by the end of next year. Which means IAF's fighter squadron strength will go below 30 next year. But that's not all. Things look grimmer post 2025 as the Jaguars will start retiring. And by the end of this decade, the Mirage 2000s and the MiG-29s will also start to retire. So if we don't go for the MRFA, what other options do we have? There are currently 3 indigenous fighter jet programs ongoing for the Indian Air Force: LCA Mark-1, LCA Mark-2 and AMCA. The LCA Mark-1A, 180 of which have been ordered in 2 phases, is already delayed. I have discussed the reason of the delay and the broader geopolitical game behind it in a previous video. Do check it out. Next, the LCA Mark-2 has also missed its timelines. The program received CCS approval in 2022 and 9,000 crore rupees was sanctioned for prototype development, test flight and certification. DRDO and HAL have projected the prototype rollout by March 2026 and the aircraft to be ready for serial production in 2027. The LCA Mark-2, which is a bigger, more capable version of the LCA Tejas, is supposed to replace the Jaguars, Mirage 2000s and the MiG-29s of the Indian Air Force. It will be bigger in size with a more powerful engine, better avionics, higher range and weapons load, etc. So in terms of capabilities, it will be of the same category as any modern 4.5 generation multi-role fighter aircraft. Or in other words, what the IAF is looking for in MRFA. And that's where the dilemma lies. So if a foreign fighter is selected under the MRFA, the prospect of any large-scale induction of the LCA Mark-2 seems bleak. Now coming to AMCA or AMCA, India's indigenous 5th generation fighter aircraft received CCS approval in March this year. 15,000 crore rupees has been approved for the design and prototype development of the aircraft. As per reports, the aircraft will be rolled out in the next 3 years and first flight in a year or two after that. Testing and certification will take another 3 to 5 years, which means the aircraft will not join service before 2035. So there is a long way to go, and even these timelines are too optimistic. But we have not addressed the elephant in the room: engines. In all the 3 indigenous fighter programs, we are using foreign engines from a single supplier in the US, General Electric. India doesn't have an indigenous jet engine, though HAL has signed a contract with General Electric for manufacture of GE F414 engines in India with 80% technology transfer. We all are aware how TOT works. So if we are really going the Atmanirbhar route, how wise is it to remain dependent on a foreign OEM for one of the most important part of the aircraft?
The quest for getting a 4.5 or 5th generation MRFA aircraft continues. We have analyzed all the RFI responses. The ASQRs are being finalized. We were seeking more commitments from all the OEMs for ensuring the indigenous content and the Make in India provisions are adhered to by all the OEMs.
With the MRFA, IAF wants full technology transfer and manufacturing in India as a precondition. We know how TOT works, but building an industrial ecosystem for a modern global fighter aircraft in India is a positive step. Then which aircraft makes the best sense for MRFA? In my opinion, only 2 aircraft fit the description well: Rafale and Gripen-E. Rafale leads the race because IAF already operates 2 squadrons or 36 Rafales. India has already paid more than 10,000 crore rupees for the India-specific enhancements on the jets. Also, weapons acquisition, personnel training, etc. have already been done. So if the Indian Air Force selects the Rafale for MRFA, most of these costs would be minimized. Secondly, Dassault and its partner companies have already invested back in India as part of the offset clause in the previous deal. Dassault is also planning an MRO facility in India. The Indian Navy is also looking to acquire 26 Rafale M fighter jets for its new aircraft carrier INS Vikrant. Price negotiations for the deal are currently underway. But as per reports, Dassault has quoted a price of over 50,000 crore rupees for the 26 jets, including IAC and weapons package. So what price Dassault quotes for the MRFA is yet to be seen. The second fighter is the Swedish Saab Gripen-E. It's the perfect fighter for IAF's requirements. In terms of capabilities, it is on par with the Rafale. It's smaller and is a single-engine aircraft, which makes its operational costs way lower than that of the Rafale. Also, it uses the GE F414 engines that HAL is supposed to produce in India. Saab also promises to shift the production line to India with technology transfer. But there are 2 issues. One, Saab doesn't own all the technologies used in the aircraft. For example, its radar is from Leonardo, earlier known as Finmeccanica, an Italian company. Most of its weapons are of US or European origin. So what technology can be practically transferred by Saab is a big question. Secondly, Gripen-E's specification match with the LCA Mark-2. So if Gripen-E gets inducted, induction of LCA Mark-2 makes very less sense. Also, you may have noticed, none of the fighters offered to India under the MRFA is a 5th generation one. All are 4.5 generation standard. So at a time when most of the advanced countries are operating either indigenous or acquired 5th generation fighters, how logical is it to buy a 4.5 generation fighter which would be inducted around 2030 for a whopping $20 to $25 billion? Moreover, should we go for a foreign 5th generation fighter such as the US F-35 or Russian Su-57, or invest our full energy and funds in the indigenous AMCA program and wait at least till 2035 to see a 5th generation fighter aircraft in IAF colors? As I said earlier, it's an extremely complicated situation. At this point, if we cancel the MRFA and go fully with the indigenous route, as the past record suggests, there is no certainty that the aircraft will be delivered in time. On the other hand, if we go ahead with the MRFA, it will definitely address the number and capability issues, but at the same time, spending some $20 to $25 billion on a foreign fighter will undoubtedly push the indigenous programs like LCA Mark-2 and AMCA into the back burner. There have been reports that Pakistan Air Force pilots are currently undergoing training on the Chinese J-31 or FC-31 5th generation fighter aircraft in China, and Pakistan may soon induct a few of these. China is already operating more than 200 J-20 5th generation fighter aircraft and is mass producing the same, many of which have already been spotted near the LAC with China. So what does this mean for balance of air power in the region? These are troubling developments. We are losing time. IAF can't afford any more delays. It's time we take the decision. I hope you liked the video. For more such informative videos, keep following the ARC. Thank you.